Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got this beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day. Come on, you piece of crap.
Well, welcome to Hooptie's Garage, another day in Hooptie Paradise on the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube. Well, I did that intro different. I'm gonna have a stroke. But anyway, as you can see, my 1994 Chevrolet Suburban is not starting today. And if you've owned these Chevy products from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you probably know exactly what's happened. I probably do too. It seems like it's not getting any fuel. The fuel pump has gone out, and well, it needs a tow truck. So my good friend Dennis, the tow truck driver, is on his way to pick up the car. And I know a lot of you have been asking about this as well, my 1994 Ferrari 456, and why it's missing its front bumper. Well, after Car Trek, the 456 had a really hard go. It bore the full brunt of the Car Trek, so it's getting repaired. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to ruin the Car Trek. I think it's the best one that we have ever done, and it will unveil to the internet in a few weeks on Tavares' channel. Today, though, we are going to do a Hooptie fleet update. I'm going to try and show you all 30 of my cars and what's going on with them, including the Corvette, which we have a major update on. There's some messed up bits in the engine. And when we get up to the Car Wizard, I imagine the Suburban will be there by now, so we can confirm my hypothesis that the fuel is not going up into the engine. But we have to wait for the tow truck first and wait for this to get put back together before I start the Hooptie fleet update. So, well, bear with me for a moment. Dennis is here, Skeeter's Towing. Mauricio, welcome to YouTube. Amy Enterprises here doing the bumper. So we were discussing strategy for getting it on the truck, and you think I should roll it down?
Roll it down the hill, and I'll just back up in front of it, and we will get her taken care of.
And down we go. Speed. Speed. Brakes, brakes, don't do a countach. There we go. Sometimes they just randomly start working, but that's not the case. We'll see you in a little bit at Wizards Suburban. Well, there it goes, and after EME is done putting on the bumper, we will do a Hooptie fleet update. Now, I'm still using Mako for cars. They're just extremely busy right now, and hopefully the Maybach is back from the person who was pulling out the rear quarter and it's going into paint. If that's so, we'll stop by there and check on the Maybach, but otherwise I'll take you around to the rest of the Hoopties, then up to the Car Wizard. Well, just as Mauricio was leaving, Mike from Velocity Garage showed up with his Corvette to pick up the Ferrari to clean it up, all the mud off of it from Car Trek, cleaning it up further. But let's start a tour of the cars in the garage. We'll then go to the hangar and then up to the Wizards. So down what we're going to be driving today over to the hangar is my 1999 Plymouth Prowler that has not been down off the lift for many months. The battery was dead. It's charged up now. It should start, it should drive, but I haven't driven it in several months, which is really a shame because I really like that car. Above it is the newly completed 2004 Mini Cooper MC40 edition. The alarm just armed on the Murcielago. I just moved it. And it's all finished. The Car Ninja presented me with the biggest bill of anyone has ever paid on a Mini Cooper of this generation in probably over 10 years, but it's all sorted, it's nice, and now it's up on the lift. I'm going to drive it, I promise. Below it is my Beck Spider 2021 Subaru powered. It's running, it's driving, it's slicing, it's dicing, and it is beautiful. But it is very tiny. When you see next to it the 85 SL, which is a smaller convertible, it just looks like a giant next to this car. Unfortunately, the SL, which is my first car, my grandmother gave this thing to me when I was a teenager, it's leaking. It's actually dumping a combination of fluids, unfortunately, because it was up on the middle lift and it started leaking on here. And what happens on this lift when it starts leaking is it gets into the rail and then starts dripping. You can see the drip of red, looks like transmission fluid. So that'll be needing to go into service soon, but there's a lot of other cars in the way that need to get done before that. Above it, my 2011 Mercedes SLS AMG, which is going to be coming down soon and going off to Atlanta, I think. I'm gonna ship to Ed and we'll start the next car trek with
the SLS. Next to it, my 2006 Lamborghini Murcielago Roadster, doing great with the exception of a belt squeak. It's like the belt tensioner is finally acting up. It's loosened a couple of times. The Wizard has tightened it up. It's time to just replace the belt tensioner. Other than that, totally great car. Over here, 2001 BMW 740i Sport, the Shorty Sporty. Was over at the Ninjas for a little bit of work, a minor repair, just a few $100s. Otherwise, it has been totally flawless, and I love this car. I sold the Aston Martin Rapide because I like this one better. It just hits me from the right era of cars for whatever reason. I like the way the interior feels. I like the way it drives, even though it's not as fast or exclusive or well, fun, I suppose. I just like it. So we'll go outside. There's a few more cars before we head over to the hangar. Yep, around the corner I have the G55, which has two wheels in the gravel because it is leaking power steering fluid from the gearbox. I don't want to spend $1,200 replacing the power steering gearbox, so I just leave it parked like that and let it drip a little bit. Next to it, my Mercedes CL 500, 1990s. I don't even know. I don't even remember the years. 97, I think, 98. It's here. I drive it. It's nice that it sits outside. I don't have to worry about it. And this car I'll be unveiling soon. It's the next one for the Car Ninja to work on. A very cool car. One of the coolest BMWs I think made in the last 10 years. So with that, let's hop in the Prowler. Hopefully it starts after the battery got charged, and we'll head over to the hangar.
I guess I've had this Prowler for about a year now, and if you haven't followed the videos on that, check it out because it is super fun, especially the mods we did. Auto stick engaged with a tune, a few light mods. This thing really wakes up. Over 300 horsepower, the rear end gearing's different. It's just a totally different car. Now it drives as crazy as it looks. And even the auto stick is pretty responsive. Not sure how well you can hear me in the wind, but this thing is really fun. Welcome to the Hooptie hangar, my overflow facility for Hoopties, and it's kind of fun. I have some pretty good pairs going on right now with cars, starting with the Fords, my 1951 Ford Country Squire, which is back from Velocity Garage's detail and looking incredible. The best part, though, is seeing all that period correct hot rod goodness all shined up. Oh yeah, look at that. So pretty. Edelbrock aluminum heads, Offenhauser dual carb setup, 12 volt conversion. This thing, well, it's been working great ever since it got back from the Wizard, so no complaints here. Same with my 1966 Mustang. Let's get this head down because I can't hold it much longer. 1966 Mustang Fastback, now with Prius electric steering. I thought I bought this thing really cheap, but then my friend Rob, he got his Fastback for, well, like $5,000 less than what I paid for my Fastback, and his is very cool. It's not in as nice condition, not as fast, obviously, with the Restomod engine under the hood, but still an amazing deal where I got my Corvette up in Cuba, Missouri. But another great pair is these two here. My 2000 Dodge Dakota with only 8,000 miles. It's the 5.9 RT next to the 1999 Plymouth Prowler. These two could have sat in the showroom together back around the new millennium, and they were priced kind of similarly and had similar performance. Another pair you could kind of say is the purpleness. The Plymouth Prowler is very purple, and the 2000 911 is also very purple. My daughter actually picked out this color, and Mako painted it plum crazy purple. I bought this Porsche for only $6,000, spent a lot more money fixing it up, and sad to say, it's going. It's sold actually to Canada, so this will be the last time you ever see this 2000 911 unless you live in Canada. I kind of needed to let something go since I'm keeping all the Lambos, and it was an easier choice. It still wasn't easy, but it was easier. Now next to it is another cool pair, my 1990 Ferrari 348 next to the 1989 Lamborghini Countach. You have side strakes on side strakes on side strakes on side strakes. I guess a Testarossa would be a more appropriate mate for the Countach, but I love the 348 so much better. It's my favorite car by far of all the cars in my fleet. 100,000 miles on this thing. The Countach, it's driving well. It just is waiting for the Diablo to get finished up at the Wizards so it can start the work on the things that, well, need fixing. Like there's no climate control, no blower in this car. Behind it is my 2016 Chevrolet Explorer van 9-passenger, which has sort of been the MVP of the Hooptie fleet because it does haul the family on all the road trips, and it's been the Hooptie hauler hauling back all the Hoopties, including the Corvette most recently. So I do use this van quite a bit.
That is not my Trans Am, that is my father's. Same with the cop car, it's not really mine. I got it on my car show, and my dad wanted to buy it to have the Smokey and the Bandit kind of look to it. But I bought this 84 Plymouth Grand Fury on my old car show Car Issues, which is on Motor Trend on demand right now, strangely. If you want to watch it on there, it's on there. And, well, I saved the worst for last. My Bentley Turbo R. And if you've been following, you know that I listed this thing no reserve on Cars and Bids. And Daddy Doug has never failed me, and well, he really didn't fail me. I listed 2 cars on the same day. The BMW 325 iX sold for $21,000, which is a great result. It has gone off to Chicago, Michigan area, sitting at a lake house, a great spot for an all-wheel drive BMW. But the Bentley sold for $15,000, and well, the buyer bid $15,000 on the first or second day of the auction, then ended up buying another car, and then said he didn't have the money to buy both cars. So he didn't follow through with the purchase, and I'm stuck with this cursed Bentley that I don't want. I really don't want it. It's getting relisted on Cars and Bids on the 19th, running for another week. You should not buy it unless you love Bentley so much that you're willing to put up with the constant maintenance headaches. I've sorted through a lot of the big ones, so it should be a much better ownership experience for whoever buys it next. But still, for me, what a train wreck, and please, please buy it. And if you're going to bid, please bid to actually buy it, not to mess with me or whatever. They charge your credit card anyway, so it makes no sense. So now we're gonna head up to the Car Wizards, and I think I'm going to leave the Prowler here because it's a long drive and it's kind of chilly outside. So we'll just go out in my favorite, the Ferrari 348. I don't think any car will dethrone this Ferrari as my favorite, just from the bang for the buck value, and as fun as it is to drive, and the noise it makes with the gated shifter. It's just the perfect car. $35,000 for this thing, 100,000 miles on it, so I can drive it as much as I want and not have to worry about depreciating it. And since it's been repainted before, and rather badly, I can take it anywhere, park it anywhere. If it gets a scratch, who cares? It's the best car ever. It's a Hooptie Ferrari, always my favorite. Let's go to the Wizards.
Description below if you're interested in this car. I got 2 cameras going on here.
Yes, we're Inception now. Yes, we'll start my video.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks for
Wizard!
watching.
Hello, Wizard!
Hello, you're back again.
Yes! So, I had a tow up here. There it is.
There it is.
Over there, come on. Well, it appears Wizard's guess is about the same as mine because I see a hammer on the back bumper.
Yep, we're going to try that. But before we do, we can open the hood and get the air cleaner off and look at the injectors. And while we're cranking, we'll see if we see any fuel.
Okay. Yeah, this thing's not a Vortec. We're still a few years away from fuel injection like that. It's still just good old throttle body fuel injection.
Yep, TBI. One thing I want to check is have you crank it, and while it's cranking, see if the oil pressure builds, if you can see that the gauge is working.
Okay.
Let's do that.
There it goes.
Okay. So if the oil pressure sending it was bad, it will not turn on the fuel pump.
Huh.
But it appears to be good.
Okay. So then fuel.
Yeah, let's go ahead and crank it, and we'll see if we see any fuel spray. Okay. So it literally just little drops come out.
Oh.
That means everything's working. There's just no pressure there.
So that brings in the hammer, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have you crank, keep cranking, and I'm gonna do the hammer trick.
You're
Sometimes it works.
This is actually an old used car dealer trick, especially at the auctions when they're traded in with bad fuel pumps. And a lot of times, people trade in their cars with empty tanks, and they sit with empty tanks, and that ruins the fuel pumps on these because they're kind of kept cool, not really lubricated, but kept cool by the fuel itself. So try not to run these on an empty tank, just a word of advice. But hammer away, Wizard.
All right.
Yep.
Power of the hammer.
So that'll work until it locks up again, which will happen.
It will stop again.
But that's a trick to get you home if you need to get down the road, is hammering on the fuel tank, and hopefully the fuel pump comes back to life. I am not as beefy as Wizard with his hammers and his beefiness, so I tried to do it at home. It wouldn't work.
Thor's hammer.
Yes. Very good. All right, you want me to move this thing before I turn it off?
Yes.
Is that good?
That'll work.
Wonderful. Well, so fuel pump.
Yeah, so basically by hitting on that and we got it running again, there's no more questions that we need to answer. It's a fuel pump.
Yeah. Well, while it's here, the air conditioning's quit working, so you can look at that.
Okay.
And maybe throw some new shocks on it because it is the original shocks, and I think it can ride a little bit better. But moving on, it's a Hooptie Fleet update, Wizard. So Apollo 911 is still Apollo 911ing. It's sitting.
It's sitting, yes.
But someday we're going to start on that. But there's other priorities in the shop right now. Haven't unveiled what's under there.
The red one.
No, shush, shush. And then the Wagoneer. Actually drove it for the first time in a long time, and it drove great. It's now getting some interior work done.
Yeah, we have an answer on the door why it went down on you and wouldn't come back up.
Yeah, my test drive, the only thing that was wrong was the window was stuck down on the passenger side. And that's a regulator?
So on these old Chrysler Jeep vehicles, the motor runs a plastic strip up and down.
Yeah.
And it's common for them to break, just like this one has. So I'm able to get one of these, and that's all, 25 bucks.
Oh.
And I have, the window works perfect as far as the motor's concerned.
Perfect.
So, very common on these older Chrysler vehicles.
Well, that'll get fixed, and a new headliner and some touch-up on the interior, and then it's going home for the first time in almost 2 years.
Wow.
With the repaint. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Time's flown, and the Hooptie Fleet has changed a lot. Chinchilla's working on the other Wagoneer, it looks like.
Yep, hard at work.
Someday he'll put back together the Cadillac he took apart.
I noticed looking at the Suburban, there's actually some pieces in there.
Yes, yes, the rear bumper fillers
Yep.
are in there.
So we can start putting those on.
And Diablo still has a condom on it, condom man, yes?
Yes, 99% effective at keeping the dirt off.
Okay, still waiting on the steering rack.
Yep, it's ordered, it's on its way.
Should be any time now.
Yep.
But this, you had some news.
Have some news, yes.
All right. So where we left off, this thing was running, it was driving, it overheated, flushed it. It's not overheating anymore, right?
No longer overheats.
But there was a horrible tap, like a banging on this side, but then a clatter all over the place. And I see you have the valve covers off.
Yes, the valve covers over here. You can see we have some rubbing. You can see where the rocker arms were actually contacting the valve cover. We were able to move some of the rocker arms around to get one that doesn't touch.
Okay.
We also thought when you bought it, we were thinking it had solid lifters.
Right.
It does not.
Mm.
I was able to get a borescope camera down at the lifters and look, it has hydraulic lifters. So we went through and reset all the lash to 0 lash like they're supposed to be. And once we get it running again, it'll be quiet. The clatter will be gone. And we found this. Take a look at that. Roll it.
Roll it. It's bent. This
is
a
bent.
Push rod?
Yes, it is a push rod for the intake side.
So what made it bend?
Well, the valve is no longer stuck. I pushed on it with my hand and it's fine. What I think happened is the valve was stuck at one point, but when you went to crank it when you first bought it,
Right.
the rocker arm, it wouldn't move. It pushed and bent the rod and finally broke the valve loose.
Eventually. Thank goodness it did. And all the damage was this, huh? Okay.
Cheap, easy fix.
Very good. Which side was that on?
That was, I guess it's the exhaust side. That was wrong.
Oh.
If it's this one here and I can push, the valve's not stuck and it didn't hit the piston. That's not the problem.
Okay.
So between that was robbing some power, and once we get the lash set correctly, I think this thing's going to be a screamer.
So we're close.
We're getting there.
Well, I'm just happy that it worked at all after everything was put together, but then the noises from the engine were pretty concerning, and I guess they're not something to be too concerned with.
Nope. So we're dealing with work that somebody else did. We're just having to work our way through it and find out what needs to be tinkered with, what doesn't need to be tinkered with, and we're getting there.
Getting close.
Yep.
And I see the Azures over on the lift. I guess while you're waiting on parts, somebody started tearing that up, huh?
Yes, we found some hoses that were bad.
Magic Mike swiping. Hello.
How's it going? Swiping left.
So that's a old looking hose.
Yeah, they were. You can see it's all cracked through here. It was just pouring fluid down the lines. You can see in that video we did of yours recently where these were all wet.
Mm-hmm.
They still are kind of wet, but it's just cracked and the fluid was just running down. We got some hoses ordered.
Is that Jean-Claude Van Damme's fault?
I don't know. Maybe he did a few roundhouse kicks on it or something. I don't know.
More likely age.
Very likely.
Well, overall, this is a very positive Hooptie Fleet update.
Right.
You're not slapping me with a new $6,000 bill?
Not yet.
You don't even have a bill for me today, do you?
No, there's no bill to pay today.
It's the first time ever. Very good, Wizard.
Yes, very good.
Well, carry on. I'm gonna go home happy and not broke for once.
Finally.
Wonderful. Thank you for watching.